Karl Gostner from Prime Media. A very warm welcome to the Red Zone. We all say that the future is about convergence. As someone that comes from ostensibly a radio organization, are you saying that the 30-second spot is dead unless there is kind of leveraged add-on?
Jeremy, not at all. We still find that the good, strong 30-second message works for our clients and works for ourselves. I think the overwhelming thing is there a proposition? And the joy of radio is just that immediacy. It's the ability to tell the story and to cut through. And we're still seeing the 30-second spot works for ourselves and our clients.
But having said that, these days the future of all of this is to give more. You've got to develop this converged campaign. What are the building blocks?
Building blocks of a converged campaign at the very basis, and I actually think it's a bit like a Lego, a thing of Lego. You know, you get the big blue boxes of Lego, and you can build a house, or you can build a car, or you can build a plane. For marketers these days, it's, well, do I want a plane or a house or a boat? There's not an absolute, well, it must be this and this and this. It depends on what the objectives are. So you might be wanting to seed a conversation, in which case you may want to just use social media and seed the conversation and fly sort of beneath the traditional media parapet for a while. You might want to go big and then use traditional media, and there's nothing more powerful, as F&B has demonstrated, from taking over radio for a period of time and then supporting it with social media. So I think ultimately the answer is it depends, but all of those media assets with a story can build the house or the plane or the car.
Where is the starting point, the push for all of this come from? Is it a radio campaign that filters out to social media, or can you start out with a social media strategy and build towards a radio campaign? Or, as you've just said to me, does it depend? It all depends on what the brand actually wants.
Well, yes, I think it starts with a product strategy. What is your product? What is the story that you're trying to tell, and who are you trying to reach in what way? You know, if you have a sale on this Friday, I wouldn't say use social media. I would be saying buy that radio schedule tomorrow. If you're into a much bigger branding campaign, you may want to use a mix of all of them.
How difficult a sell is this to people who are steeped in the traditional way of buying media? You're coming and you're saying that radio is principally at the core of all of this. There is more. We are asking you, Mr. Brand, to change your mind, to recalibrate your thinking. That's difficult because not everyone's grasped how important this is, and in many ways how to actually do it properly.
I think it's incredibly difficult, Jerry. Leave alone selling it.
Yeah.
It's to, I mean, if you sit as we do in the heart of stories that are unfolding every day, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you know, John Roby just had a great interview with the minister in the breakfast show, and then you start to think, well, what implications does that have for news? Should we carry it into another show on the station? What about Twitter? What about Facebook? Is there a video interview there? And all of those things are consistently swirling, and we live it 24/7, 365. So to try and have that conversation in a way that it depends, which has been my answer to your previous three questions, is it becomes quite difficult because you don't have a neat packaged solution that goes, well, there's this. That is the answer to your problem. So at the moment it is complicated, not because I think the mechanics of selling it are complicated, but because humanity is grappling with what do these modes of communication mean for all of us, leave alone selling our products and connecting with our listeners.
Karl, either from a brand example or from a content example, within the Prime Media space, where does this work? Do you have good examples?
We have some fantastic examples. The one that jumps to mind, which is a recent one, is in Cape Town. A councillor had wanted to replace park benches in gardens, in the company gardens. And the intent of replacing the park benches was to make them uncomfortable so that homeless people would not be able to nap in the sun. John Matham, our afternoon drive show presenter, took this topic onto air and started a conversation. He was then emailed a letter from a homeless person, or a person who had been homeless, reflecting on not just having a nap on a park bench, but on his experience of being homeless. And really, I mean, what he brought to life in his letter and in the manner in which John took it on air is just the humanity. He told a human story. One of our social media producers was adept enough to pick that story up, posted it on Facebook, and literally within 36 hours, that post had reached 76,000 people.
Say that again, 76,000 people. That's astonishing reach.
That's massive reach.
In such a short space of time.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And for Cape Talk, which is an influential but small radio station, so it really spread beyond that moment on air. I mean, and I think that's the joy of bringing those two things together, is that you have a moment on air which is, in the bigger scheme of things, quite ephemeral. It's a 90-second, 2-minute piece, but then being leveraged and carried on in other people's conversations, because you can be sure that for every 1,000 people that shared it, they were having a conversation.
And that gives it the longevity and the sustainability that you're actually looking for. Just a final question. Let's bring it back to the brand if we can. If there is a marketing director or a brand manager who's watching our conversation, what is the one question you think they should be asking of the radio station in terms of this convergence strategy?
I think they should be asking of their media partners generally, will they get into their shoes? Will they stand with them and experience what they want their customers to experience? And from there, that story evolves. I think the one pushback I would expect marketers to do, not only with their media partners but with their agencies, is to be very careful about overcomplicating it. At the heart of all the technology and the code and the platforms and all of the complexity are humans, and there's a human story. And how do you connect with that? And I think the joy of radio, and we see it every single day, is a simple story told well moves people. And too often I see the sort of whirling propellers and the fireworks and the this and the that, and people get caught in big data and convergence and social and is it this and that. Those are all important things, but beware the complexity.
Thank you very much for joining us, Karl Gostner from Primedia.
It's a pleasure.